Miguel, thank you.
Thank you.
Taking this time. And you are a game localization expert. You have written extensively. Your new book is coming already out now. This is a very specialized field and a really exciting field. My question was that what are the idiosyncratic or specific aspects of game localization which are different from other aspects of localization, let's say websites or social media, etc.?
I think the key with video game localization comes if you call it with a different name. So, for example, I like to call it the localization of multimedia-interactive entertainment software. So you look at it, you have four keywords. It's multimedia, it's interactive, so the customer is going to be choosing things, and then it's entertainment, and it's software. So a software product has already some particularities, but then it's entertainment. And I think one of the key issues that differentiate video games from other products is the fact that that localization, that translation, that machine that is a video game needs to be entertaining beginning to end, engaging, amusing, thrilling. That is not simple translation. Translation is never simple anyway.
Right.
But in the case of video games, I think it makes it even more difficult because it's software, multimedia.
Yes. And specifically, like I was wondering, when companies are creating these video games for international launch, do they keep in mind how the characters, how the content, media might be perceived by different cultures?
That's a very good question. I don't think they used to at all. For a few years now, not that many, some companies are actually realizing that, yes, maybe we are, as humans, we are very similar, but then the way we enjoy entertainment and the way we perceive the entertainment created in other countries is not necessarily the same. So yes, in many cases, companies that are very savvy are starting to integrate an element of internationalization in their game design from the beginning. Mm-hmm. So they may allow for other characters, other items, other cars, brands, sports teams, other color combinations, other levels of difficulty, other type of music. Companies that really understand the logic of entertainment in different countries allow for that because they need to take care of the clients, and that is right.
And you use this term internationalization, and I think a lot of times people get confused between internationalization and I-18N, which is the internationalization, which I think that's what you meant. Mm-hmm. Can you elaborate just a bit on what you meant by internationalization?
The way I understand that term is once you have a key concept of a game you want to do and an experience you want to give to the player, then you necessarily at the beginning you will have an idea about that player, and that idea of that player will be linked necessarily to the people who designed the game in the country they designed the game. But then there will be players in 5, 10, 12, 15, 20 different countries. So internationalizing your design and your plan means you are aware that other people in other countries that speak a different language, a different culture, a different history, different things that they like and don't like, are being catered for. And I think that's leaving those placeholders in the design so that other people can have an input into the design.
Okay. And you see this practice more prevalent now than?
It's not prevalent enough.
Really?
It is surprising that it's still new to some companies because this, of course, is very easy to say, but you need to come up with a process that actually allows for it. And that's a lot of thinking. That requires a great structure, a good communication through the company, and actually a company and a creative team that allows for that to happen. Because normally creative teams or designers or programmers, they want to do the one game they are doing. But I always say, well, if you're going to 12 countries, it is possible that you are doing 12 games. So bear that in mind. And if you have a good plan, it's not going to cost you that much money. If you don't have a plan, well, then it's you back in the 2000s.
Starting from scratch every country then?
Either that or risk the fact that it may not be liked, not enjoyed. Yeah.
Have you seen any such blunders where a game was not correctly perceived or accepted?
I think typically there have been games where they have been banned from a market because of specific cultural content. There's different legislation,
Okay.
but there's also different approaches of players. So because of a particular type of music, because a particular storyline, on war games, strategy games, because a particular vision of history and how the map actually looks, depending on who won or who lost, according to who's telling the story. All these things are very sensitive. It's, although some people may think, well, it's just a game,
Right.
it is not a game if you're being portrayed or stereotyped
Yes.
into something you don't want. And if you're doing that to your players, well, obviously they're not going to be happy.
Yeah. And can you share an example of where such geocultural blunder might have occurred?
Well, I can remember, for example, one of the releases of Little Big Planet was going, which is a lovely game. It's a platformer, a lovely, cute little game with very basic logic, but very much fun to play. And that game had different themes and different levels, and one of the music in one of the levels was reminiscent of Quranic chanting.
Oh, wow.
Because it looked all right with the graphics. There was nothing necessarily offensive in it, but because it could elicit that image in the player, they thought, well, some Muslim practitioner may not appreciate that, so they did right. And before release, they actually removed that and put something else. So the danger, the line wasn't crossed. But this can be done proactively. You don't need to wait until the game is almost finished for someone to say, oh, actually, maybe we should have changed that. Similar things happen when, I don't know, with the typical example with Grand Theft Auto and the do you want some coffee part of the game, which actually was an invitation to have sex within the game. Okay. There are many things that may seem only cheeky in one country, but quite offensive in another. Right. So I would never say to a game developer, don't do this or don't do that. Be creative in whatever way you want that makes sense with the game world you're creating, but realize that other people in other countries may prefer other type of experiences and maybe make room for it. Yeah. Make room for it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. That's great insights. Thank you.
Thank you.